Welcome to Season 5 of A Little Birdie Told Me with your host Rebecca Horan. On episode 11, I'm speaking to founder of Chupi, Chupi herself. Sponsored by Aptamil Follow-On Milk. We believe that every feed is a gift. That's why we've dedicated over 50 years to breast milk research and created Aptamil Follow-On Milk. Aptamil Follow-On Milk, your life, our science. Breastfeeding is best. Follow-on milk should be used as part of a mixed diet from 6 months. Talk to a health professional. This episode is super special. Sometimes I know my guests from seeing them at the odd thing or knowing a bit about them or researching them or following them on Instagram. This lady, I actually physically worked in the same proximity. Well, kind of worked with her. Like she was in and out, but I worked with her and she has just reminded me that that was gone 20 years ago. So I'm 41 since yesterday. And I can't actually believe that. It makes me kind of emotional. But that's how long ago I knew her. And now I know of her because she's just this absolute huge success story in Irish life. She just is. And also just someone that we all look to. So Chupi Sweetman, I was calling you Chupi Sweetman. You're like, no, my name is this, this and this now. But who I would have known her as. And founder of Chupi, where everyone is like, I want this, I want this, I want this. Because everything she sells is so beautiful. And mother of Aya.
Yeah. And
married lady and living her best life in Dublin, but has a lot to give us. Welcome to the podcast. 20 years ago, we worked in Topshop.
A million years ago, right? Like a lifetime, because I was 40 this year.
Can't believe that. Happy birthday.
It's
a big one.
Oh, well, I'm doing the decade. I'm doing the entire year. What does my friend say? It's for decades you do the year.
Yeah.
And I just love that idea.
It's a big one.
Well, I think...
I felt the weight of it.
I lost a year during COVID. I got out of COVID and thought I was a year closer to 40. And obviously I was planning the diamond. So I was like, okay, I'm getting a diamond. I'm doing the party. I think I lost a really dear friend when we were 25. And I remember, you were just so sure everything was going to be okay when he got sick. And we just thought, there was no question that anything was going to go wrong, that he wasn't going to get better. And it taught me so much about how short life is.
Yeah.
And so since then, I think like my mum is culture of celebration. We are a family that celebrates. We do
Love
everything.
That.
But Tom definitely taught me about honouring every year and every moment and every, we have ceremonies over every little thing. And
I love that.
I'm celebrating 40, so I'm enjoying it. I'm doing a whole year worth of silly things. I remember, I wrote a cookbook when we were kids. So my brother and I were...
Sorry, Chupi's an overachiever, so we will struggle throughout this interview with all she's achieved.
High-performing ADHD with homeschooling added on top. I hasten to point out Enoch Burke is doing no favours for homeschooling at the moment.
Jesus, no.
Honestly. So
He's so hot though, right? If I was on Tinder, he's exactly who I'd get targeted by.
I just don't understand him. Like, put that man in jail.
I don't understand him. He's just so depressing.
So I was homeschooled when I was my little brother and I. So I was really sick, couldn't go to school, had a compromised immune system, and it just meant, so mum was amazing. And she was one of the founders of the women's movement. So these 14 women who had burned their bras. And I always think if you take it back to when mum founded the women's movement, I'm going to go right back in history, in Ireland.
Okay.
So 14 women founded the women's movement in the 1970s. The women's movement, their manifesto is in the National Library beside the Communist Manifesto. My mum's super proud of that. She's like, in the National Library beside the Communists.
What's your mum's name? Let's shout out.
Rosita Sweetman. And she's wonderful.
She's just awesome.
She is.
She's just awesome.
And she, when faced with
if you don't follow her on Instagram, follow her on Instagram.
Incredibly opinionated. My mum
She is incredibly smart.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything opinionated or divisive, and if she is, great. She hits the nail on the head. Every time she puts something up, you're like, oh, I wish I'd said it like that. She's so articulate.
She really cares about why, about what.
Yeah.
So
it's as if she's a trained journo, like she's literally on the ground. Amazing, yeah.
She's 76, and so she brought my daughter, my little girl, who was on her first march at 9 months old.
Wow.
And I hope I have mum's passion in my 70s, out and fighting. And so when mum was faced with, they founded the women's movement. In the 1970s, your husband could rape you within marriage legally.
Yes.
Completely legal. It only became illegal in 91 was when it was made illegal. So in
91?
91. So in the 1970s.
So they could take what they wanted.
Yeah.
Under drink or under wwhatever. They could just go home and do whatever on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
You had to take that because that was part of the agreement of being...
But even up until the 1980s, your husband, I can't remember the exact year, but your husband, in the 1970s when they founded the movement, your husband could go to London. He could divorce you without your consent or knowledge. He could without consent or knowledge. He could take your house without consent or knowledge. Even if your family had given you the house, even if it had been all your money, everything, he could take full custody of your children without consent or knowledge. because he was a man.
So what would happen? So this is how women ended up at home.
So
women ended up
he could come home.
I didn't know that.
Put you on the side of the road. He would have full control of the bank accounts, full control of the house, and full control of the children.
Why? Because he was a man?
Because he was a man. Quite literally because he was a man. This was pre the women's movement in the 70s. Contraception was 84. Like, this is just the dark ages. And so this idea, I think I was really brought up with this idea of better, of like, this
we need to do better.
We need to do better. Of this, of where they started. And Mum always says that she feels like the women's movement did a phenomenal job until you have your babies, and that they've achieved relative equality. You know, that actually par for par, young women and young men can compete.
For someone like her, I mean, I don't know how she was raised herself. Did she feel like she kind of let herself down by marrying a man, like by getting into the traditional marriage? Or do you feel that way about marriage, even you?
Like, I do remember calling
and your
Mum,
brother, you have a brother who grew up in this.
I do, yeah. And my brother is amazing. His fiance we adore her. She's gorgeous. She just won an Emmy. She's one of the only female directors of photography working in Ireland. He runs a gorgeous production company. You know, he is
What did she win for?
She did an incredible documentary with the New York Times on Afghani refugee fleeing the Taliban.
God, amazing.
Yeah, she's deadly.
Amazing.
And and he is deadly. He's a pain in the arse as well. Luke, I love you dearly, but you're also a pain in the arse.
That's okay.
But it's that idea of better and of forward and of Mum's passion. I remember calling her. So I met my husband. So fast forward the homeschooling piece. So Mum decided when she had the sick kid, instead of just being like, okay, what are we going to do? Homeschooled us. And so we had this very liberal, very hippie,
love it,
privileged homeschooling. We were brought up on nothing. There was no money. There
was no money, but there was a ton of, education, privilege, energy,
hugely.
Love.
And a really safe home, and in the middle
was
of...
your dad there? Was he
involved? No, Dad
and
Mum were divorced at that stage.
Okay, they were. Okay.
Yeah, they'd gotten divorced in London because it was pre-divorce in Ireland. So divorce in Ireland was 96 and they got divorced they were 94.
Did she get anything out of that? The house? Did she get some?
Well, it was her house, so she kept the house. Yeah,
okay.
But I always think she should remember that if she hadn't created the women's movement with this amazing gang, she wouldn't have got the damn house, even though it was hers, primarily hers.
So they're divorced on okay terms. She's raising.
Yeah, us, and I meet my boyfriend at 16.
Yes,
so I met my husband.
This.
Yeah,
I knew this because you were with.
Yeah, Brian,
gorgeous man when
in
we
Top
were
Shop.
in Top Shop, and I didn't know that he was who is the father. What?
24 years. We're 25 years together next
So
spring.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Because that's no mean feat.
We were
and
10
I don't
years
mean
married.
that in a derogatory. It's really hard to maintain
It's really
a relationship.
Hard. No, and I always say
in
that.
modern times and with all the distraction and crazy, that's incredible.
And he's co-director in Chupi. So
how did you meet at 16?
We met, this is so Irish, Rebecca. We met at a confirmation. That's how, like, it's so Irish. At a confirmation. Religious. I'm not religious at all, but my little brother, one of his best friends, it was his confirmation, his middle brother's best friend, and one of Brian's friends, and she set us up and said, and that night, Brian, I don't think I've told this story and embarrassed you, so forgive me, but we were driving home with my mom because I was 16 that night, about 11:30, Irish confirmation, so he'd been in the pub, and Brian tried to run across the road going, Chupi, I love you, and luckily his friend caught him by his t-shirt and yanked him back so he wasn't killed. And we've been together since we were babes.
So you grew up near each other?
Near, in country terms, 20 miles apart. So
it's not that near. So to see each other with no mobile phones and no TikToks.
Bless our parents. They
would go and see each other and date and...
Yeah, we would date, and our parents were amazing. So once, kind of after a couple of months, his parents had met when they were babies, so they met at 16 and 17. So they were really comfortable with the idea of young love, although carefully policed, doors open, like I always remember. And we'd spend weekends at each other's houses. So and I would say we are not, we're both eldest, we're very opinionated. We are not this dream love story. We fight, we argue, we're very opinionated. I hate that. I always think, that social media version of life, but we love it very intensely. Best friend and fiercest opponent.
Love, loyalty, it's there, but there's also killings. And that's okay.
And
I think we don't ever talk about that enough either in relationships. Talking about women in finances the other day with Sabrina Hill, who was on the podcast.
She's amazing.
She is amazing, but just how we don't talk about what anyone has or pensions. We all act like we're loaded on Instagram. And it's the same with love.
Yeah.
Like happy 10-year anniversary. No one knows that in the midst of that someone cheated or there was massive shit or they fell out and it's just fucking life.
Yeah.
Did he go on to college? Did you both set up the business together? Like, what were your direct? What kept you together?
So I wrote a cookbook. That was the homeschooling overachievement. What
was it called?
What to Eat, and it was great fun. It was published in Ireland by Gillian Mack, in London by Macmillan, in New York by Marlowe, and it was brilliant. I had a whole bunch of food allergies, and so it was all healthy eating before healthy eating was a thing. And then I remember Brian being like, "You have to go to uni." And I was like, I don't, it'd be grand. I'd taken a gap year to do the book. And then by the time it was published, I was 18, took a gap year to do the book, and then took another one. And he was like, no, come on, go to university. He's a super nerd. So he, computer science. He just lives and breathes technology. And so he'd gone to uni to do computer science. And I said, okay, I'll go do fashion. I'd had a little fashion brand since I was 16. It's my way of paying my way through school and college. Yeah. And I always say brand as if it was this big thing.
Why are you so... At the heart of you, if I spoke to anyone who, when we worked together, I'm trying to think of all the beautiful people that we worked with, Kate, oh my God, even Courtney Smith, Wendy, Emma.
Yeah. All the Manly, amazing people.
Like the amazing women, right? We,
incredible
not
group.
All the same, very different, not all got on, but just amazing women who've made it in the industry. I actually think about that, and like Courtney Smith is a stylist.
Yeah.
Emma Manley has done so well. Wendy.
Yeah.
Like Kate went off to London and worked.
Yeah.
What was in you, right? So forget about your mum being this incredible home, which, because I know that helps, and we talk about environment, but you are entrepreneurial. You have great initiative. You have a lot of get up and go. We can't just say it's down to genetics or your mom or what was in you to be like, I just want to fucking work and make my own money?
There's a TikTok that's something like, you may not know this, but I have never in my life been chill. I do think there's truth in that, of just this wonderful.
I've never
voice
ever
note.
in my life been chill. It's
the
and biggest issue. And you talk about ADHD, and we bandy that around, and there's a lot of 40-year-olds being diagnosed.
Yeah.
But I have no chill.
No, I have zero chill. And so I always think, well, part of it was drive, was we didn't have any money. And so I really wanted to...
Why didn't you have any money? Your dad had buggered off?
Dad had buggered off with the money. And so mum was bringing us up. I was sick. And so there wasn't a lot of money.
And you wanted your own money.
I wanted my own money.
Yeah,
I wanted to contribute.
I wanted nice things.
And I wanted to contribute to the family. I wanted to, to make sure that everything was okay. And so that early entrepreneurial drive, but it can't just have been that. But because before I was aware of money, I remember my granny was Sandy Mount and had a lovely little orchard with the most inedible fruit you would ever tasted. Whatever was wrong, they were the worst plums, the most disgusting apples. I don't know. Granny, to be fair, my grandmother was the least domesticated woman alive, and so she had this awful orchard. But I remember stripping the orchard and going out with all my cousins to sell the apples on the Strand.
Okay.
Because we set up a little stall, like it was like Del Boy, age 7, being like, okay, this is, and it was really cute. I remember people buying like punnets of our awful
had it
plums.
in you to make that cat.
So I've always loved. I always define it as the difference between art and design, because I'm not an artist. I want to make beautiful things, but my job is to make one beautiful thing that makes 1,000 people happy. I want to make.
Oh, that's very interesting. I like that.
A ring that, and I literally remember the buzz of standing in Cowes Lane, which is where I started. So I started in a fashion market, standing. That's how I got scouted by Topshop. I literally was standing in this bloody market, freezing my arse off for the 400th day in a row, and a Topshop scout came by and gave me a card and said, we love your collection.
So Chupi had the most incredible tutu skirts.
Yeah, and the shortest.
Sexy. Like, I'd be like, do you wear that over jeans?
Yeah, literally.
But it was like, and Courtney Smith wore it so well, her legs, my goodness. But they were these beautiful, kind of fairy-like,
I loved a good
kind
woodland.
of ethereal. They were kind of nuts, and they glitter, and they were beautiful, and they were just kind of different. No one else is really doing that unless you went to a vintage shop or ordered one online or something, which wasn't really a thing.
And it was London. I was looking at London,
and they were so cool. And you could wear them with Doc Martens or heels or trainers, and that was your thing.
I think so. I would say my strength is I would say design versus art. It's that artists create incredible things that make one person deliriously happy.
Wow, that's interesting.
And mine was always to make one thing that made thousands of people happy. And I remember this moment. So we were standing on Cowes Lane and watching.
So it's velocity.
It's joy. It is the power of moments. It's that idea of the business of love, the business of hope that it's about. And so I would say whilst mum is this incredible force of nature, my dad's an economist, my sister's an economist. Okay. My brother was an economist. There's this whole kind of piece around numbers and math is my favorite subject.
Okay, so wow, so different to me. I'm not at all mathematically minded.
I love it, and I've always loved the idea. So business as a force for good comes from mum. Like Chupi is so about we make the sustainable piece, the made in Ireland. Every choice we make is about better, about the 3 Ps. And so, but that piece of build a business. I literally remember standing in Topshop the first time someone tried something on, and just that moment when you try on the dress and you try it on and you do the little wiggle and you do the smile at the camera and you just feel like the best version of you.
Yeah.
And that was 21 in Topshop. I'm now 40, nearly 20 years later, standing on our shop floor. I'm in next week. So when this launches, I'll have just been in New York for a big show, and then I'll be in Paris Fashion Week, and it won't matter who's trying it on. It's the same buzz. It's watching someone put on something and know it was made for them. It was the thing they were missing. And so that's my, and I don't have hobbies. So I don't have.
So you don't have sports hobbies.
I took up running this year.
Amazing.
For the first time in my life. Sorry, this is completely shocking because I've never done any exercise in my entire life bar yoga.
She's just one of these svelters.
Oh no, svelters. I'm no professionally neurotic. It's the only way.
You're just not into running and all that kind of stuff.
But I decided, my brother took up running after I nearly killed him actually. We were going through an airport. We'd been away and I had misread the flight times. And we got to Stansted. We were over, so my dad and my younger sister are in London. My mum and my brother are here. My oldest sister is in Nairobi at the moment. And so we are scattered all over the world. So I've spent a lot of my life in airports.
Chupi just tell me before we came on that her dad has had a few marriages. And I was literally like, what? Because I think I always saw you as domestic dream life house, brought up in a castle, dad and mum snogging in the car doors. And instead I'm like, okay, very bourgeois, interesting, but like maybe not as much stuff. Mom homeschools, dad is actually off marrying thousands of women.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
No, and well, I would always say it's partly why I believe so strongly in love. I know that sounds really strange, but my dad is on his 5th relationship. My dad's in his 80s. And so I have siblings from 4 families. So I've got 4 stepmothers. I always have to make sure I get the math right. 4 stepmoms. 4 stepmoms. Yes, 4 stepmoms and 1 mum. And sorry, go on.
I totally interrupted your thing about your brother, so finish that, and then I want to come back to this piece in a second about broken homes, which I think is an interesting point.
Well, it's probably a really nice
what was the thing
segue on my brother. So like I said, I spent a lot of time on a plane from very young. You know, did a lot of unaccompanied flying when we were little. Oh, it's such an adventure. You go unaccompanied when you fly unaccompanied.
My husband's South African. He would fly across South Africa at 6, like to tennis matches and it was just so normal then. But he'd always have that like badge or medal, and he's like, you just kind of did it, but it was exciting.
It was fun, and we flew pre 9/11. So like mum would walk us to the plane and dad would pick us up from the plane. Can you imagine now? Literally walked on the tarmac out to the plane. But yeah, I took up running because we basically, I misread the time, and now I cut it fine. I am one of those people. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm flying to New York on Sunday, and I'm like, I normally arrive at the airport 45 to 60 minutes before my flight. I'm one of those, and I've only missed 2 flights in my whole life.
Okay,
so I'm okay. I reckon all the time I've saved being at airports, it's worth the stress. But I will for transatlantic be a little bit early just because those terrifying people in American security, those terrifying people,
so angry.
So I will be early for them. They really do. They definitely need something. But we arrived at Stansted with my husband and my brother and his gorgeous fiance, and I realised I completely misread the flight, and we had 20 minutes to get from security at Stansted to the plane. And Luke and Brian made it. Esme and I just about made it, and Luke said, I remember him being like, oh yeah, I thought I was going to die, and so he took up running. So he's one of those horrible people who it was just happened just before COVID. He took up running during COVID, and he's one of those people who's just like, oh, I'm going to run 20k.
Yeah, my husband's like that. He just runs 20k for the crack.
I can currently run 12 minutes.
That's brilliant.
But it's brilliant for me.
No, and that's brilliant.
I think you've got to always think that, like, you've got to measure your own success.
No, that's amazing. I think that's brilliant that you said you've literally never been, you're just
never in my whole life
slim woman, but you've never had to do exercise.
And no, I'm not. Like I might, I'm like, I've always done yoga. My mum is 76 and does yoga every day,
so
and that
keeps you nice,
helps for the crazy.
Yeah,
it does. It helps the crazy and the strength. But that airport piece and those families, and why I would say it's a privilege, although it's complicated.
So you would visit your dad?
Yeah, we'd visit dad, visit my big sister.
With your mum cross with him? No.
Oh yeah. No, it wasn't good.
Okay, so it wasn't good, but you would visit him, and you still had to have a relationship with him.
Mum was amazing. Dad was not, and mum was always incredible that she wanted us to have our relationships.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, she could have gone.
Oh, she absolutely could have.
Like, you're a pain in my hole, and they don't.
Honestly,
but she kept that line of communication open.
She did
you get on with him, or did you have your mum's resentment on your back?
No, I never. It was really funny. I remember him saying to me when I was younger, like he said it every year, you'll understand when you're older, and if anything, I understand it less.
Yeah, I know.
Which I think is...
It's really funny, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I really feel like...
No, Dad, I don't get it.
Yeah, no, actually, I understand it less. But whilst his behaviour and who he is, I'm never going to reconcile myself with, I got this incredible family. And so my big sister...
You do love him?
Well, it's a stretch. I actually don't necessarily believe in love and forgiveness.
Okay.
I'm quite black and white on that. I'm not. I really.
Okay,
so
that's very interesting.
Partly my big sister always laughs and says that wasn't the lesson I was trying to teach you. But she always said we were luckier than most people because we could choose to love each other.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to. We lived in different countries, in different continents for many of those years. we haven't all lived in the same continent. In the last 20 years, we've lived in the same continent for 2 years. My gang.
How would you describe your childhood?
Oh, it was joyful. And mum was a big believer in magic. So there'd be days when it was like, okay, we've got to go to the supermarket and do a shop. And mum would be like, okay, we're driving to Cork to go see.
Really amazing.
Go see her twin sister and my cousins who I adore.
But like, she sounds really special.
She is, and
like in a wing and a prayer.
Oh, honestly,
she's probably full.
Like in a wing and a prayer.
Was really in love with your dad. That really hurt her heart. Yeah. I know what that would be like to raise kids while your heart is sore.
Hugely.
Not have loads of money.
Yeah.
You know, maybe have family members in a great life, but have stuff and have to raise children in that and be fighting the good fight for women's rights. It takes a special person, because it is fucking exhausting. Living as a woman, like it's hard genuinely even now in 2024.
And what was it like in 1984? Amazing. I think she, you know, she sees all the things she got wrong. It's really interesting actually as a mother now, looking at myself and all the times I fail and being like, you know, the guilt of motherhood. And so mum carries this huge guilt of motherhood, of all the things that weren't perfect. But I would say it was magical and chaotic. It definitely was chaotic, but it was magical. I really want to make sure Aya has that, of just being like, oh, you think you're going to school? Actually, we're going to go to Cork. You know that? But
it's made you, who was it that was, I was listening to a podcast recently and she was like, now your mum did not get so much wrong, but this lady was saying about her mum, is she a very well-known person? You would know when I say it. Anyway, she said mum got so many things wrong and it's the thing that they talk about most. Yeah. It's irritating because they do therapy. But she said, actually, look who I am. She's a huge success story. She's an author. And she goes, I probably wouldn't be this driven or this incredible or this magical without what had happened with mum and the failings and the fuck ups. And she said, like, this perfect domestic life. Yeah. Like, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you feel, or would you describe it as a broken home? Or do you not see it as that? And how do you think divorce affects children? Because this is something I spoke about with gorgeous Sophie Morris, who does a lot of great stuff about nutrition.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Menopause. She's amazing. And her dad left them. Was there an indiscretion? I don't know. He went, and it was a sudden thing. And I asked her about it, and she said, you know what it was? It wasn't that dad and mum fell out of love or he had gone off her. It was the not being communicated effectively with that made it shit. So me and my brother didn't know what the fuck had suddenly happened, why it happened, and there was hurt there and there was resentment, and it was the kids never knowing the truth, right? And she said that fucked us up more than the actual broken home, which we can all deal with. So do you think it affected you, and what do you think?
Oh, it absolutely affected me, for sure. Like, you can't I can't imagine if they would have stayed together though. Jesus, like, I think
that not have been better.
Oh no, like I think so mum's North Star is the truth. And so her obsession is the truth and that accuracy and truth. And so she was always really good at being honest and being, you know, saying, this is what's happening, this is why it's happening, it's not great. And it probably made me grow up faster, in a good way and a bad way. But it meant that, no, I never felt I wasn't part of it, or I didn't get to be part of it. I guess I've no frame of reference, because I can't say what would my life have looked like if I'd had two parents. And I think balance, like I always say, I got one incredible one and one useless one. Mm-hmm. That's better than many people get.
Totally.
And so the privilege of, and I'm deliriously glass half full. I've always
same. But had they been under that roof and kept it alive, and maybe your dad had gone off and found, would it have been a better thing for your mum? No, probably not.
No, she could, because it was the lies. Yeah, and then it was the lies, and mum can't deal with that. She really,
there's no grey areas.
There's no grey. She doesn't do grey, and she really and I think I really do that.
Was there a grief of not having the perfect two, you know, or not at all, Chupi? Like, do you think you just didn't know any better?
I didn't know any better. I don't think there was I didn't mourn the idea of two perfect parents, because I never really had them.
So if you failed in your marriage, which I don't think it's a failure if something comes to an end or evolves, or do you feel now the burden of having to keep this truck going? It's just an interesting thing. Children who come
it's a great question. Would I? No, I would not be able to suffer through a bad marriage.
Wow.
I wouldn't do a bad marriage. I love Brian. We've been together so long.
You're not trying to always hold, you're not going to always cling on to something because your folks didn't make it. That's so interesting.
God, it'd be so dangerous. Because how toxic would that be?
Because a lot of women I've spoken to, Chupi, say, I came from parents who did not get on, but they made it work, and it was a toxic home, and we had a fucked up childhood, but they made it. And so I'm gonna try and do better and cling on, and I don't. Or parents who divorced. And I do think it's funny how things can be cyclical. Do we follow? But you're saying,
I think also possibly, like, mine is, you know, my parents were, it was so clearly dad at fault. I'm not looking at there going, Mum, you could have done better. There's nothing she could have done. And so he clearly is he was the one at fault. But I couldn't bring that into our marriage. marriage and go,
Because people do.
Oh no.
I put a lot of stuff into my marriage.
Oh yeah, no, like I'm sure I bring loads of bullshit. Brian is probably the one who should be sitting here going, well, have you got an hour? But I don't think I could. No, I wouldn't bring that in. I couldn't hold a bad marriage because, unless, what are you holding it for?
I don't know. For the kids?
For the kids. Is it better to know, if you can do it well, if you can love each other? So actually, weirdly, a few of I'm on my gang, 4 divorces so far.
Stop it.
Honestly.
In your gang?
In my gang.
At this age?
Yeah, but
no, I'm shocked.
But I have quite a big gang of friends because of the homeschooling and because of all these different groups.
4?
So 4. And actually,
I feel like all of us are pretending we're all really glorious.
Incredible examples though, by and large, just these amazing women. And it's really interesting because I always laugh, like this in one case, it's 100% him. And she has just been amazing. She has been like, no, for their kids. She's going to, and it's amazing. It's been so good for the kids that she's managed to do it. I'm like, and I hate him on her behalf. That's my job. I hate him passionately. But others who've just made it work. And so I hope if anything ever happened to us, to Brian and I, that we would make it work for her. And
really effectively.
Yeah. And maybe we wouldn't, and maybe we would. I think the big thing is betrayal. I think it's very hard if there's betrayal involved, because it's, yes, you grow apart or, something happens, but the betrayal piece is the one for me. I think that would be my, okay, cool, I am changing my name and taking your child. That is the thing, I think, for me, that would be a major red flag that I don't know how I would cope with it, because that was the thing that scarred my parents' marriage. So who knows?
And I say all of this, and as part of Chupi's business, there's a lot of celebration of love. There's the most beautiful pieces of jewelry that you can get in this country. There is pieces that you can give your mother or your daughter or your partner or anything, but she does divorce rings.
Well, a huge
and this I thought, sorry, when I wanted to speak to you, I want to speak to you now about your beautiful daughter and everything to do with that, and I wasn't trying to hark on about your childhood and your past, but this is something that we spoke about at length when I saw it somewhere, because fuck me, there is nobody doing things like this in their businesses. Everything's amazing.
Because everything's amazing.
Love this.
And I think it's so important. You always look I'm always laughing. We've had scaling and growing Chupi from our spare room to today has been this roller coaster of loss, of grief, of we've done redundancies, we've been through restructuring, we've raised loads of money, we have gone through every single possible moment you could go through on the calendar. And I think, so I started out, why I started Chupi, and that will take me to divorce rings. So Brian, after we've been together I say 3 weeks, he says 2 weeks, he told me he loved me and he was going to marry me.
Wow.
And I remember he was day one, he said he just knew, and I was much more. God, how cute. It was gorgeous. And probably I don't carry the scars of my parents' relationship because I met him. I met him so young that if I'd gone out into the world and I'd had to go through the normal roller coaster of love and loss that you do in relationships, I don't know if I would have.
I would agree with you. I think going out into the big bad bold world with all the nasties and all the ups and downs, you met someone who wholeheartedly loved you for you at a young age before all the tripe.
Yeah.
And it was a wholesome love. And I totally agree. I think you would have been a little bit...
I think I would have found it really hard.
Yeah, I think you would have found it hard
to navigate.
And
same, Luke met.
And you might have had a bit of a wall.
Oh, I would have... I had a huge wall.
16, you were just
And I had enough of a wall that I was like, don't be ridiculous. I don't love you, I'm not marrying
that's
you.
Amazing.
And same actually for Luke as well, his amazing partner who we adore. We always say to them that if anything ever happens, we're keeping her as well. Just let's be absolutely clear, she's ours. Mum and I are keeping her. And she's got a gorgeous family, adore her sisters and her mum. But meeting Brian, and he was very sure, and he was always like, we'll get married, and I was, don't be ridiculous, I don't see the point, I don't need to, and there's no reason to. But he kept going, and we I was never a question of it, I don't love you, I was just like, I can't see why a wedding. And then we lost Tom, and I always think about, there's these hallmark days, the day you get married, the day you welcome your babies into the world, the day you say goodbye to someone you love. And we have these moments, we have weddings and christenings and funerals, and whether you're religious or not, wherever you sit on that spectrum. And I remember emerging from that year, and we were talking about it, and I was saying, I get weddings now. I understand why people get married, because you get to have your people in one room, and you get to tell the world that this is your person, that formality of it. And we went for a walk that spring of 2010, went for a walk spring of 2010 out in Dunleary, out in the pier. And I said to Brian, I was like, I actually think I'm ready to get married. And he said, nah. And I nearly killed him. I was like, me saying to you, I don't want to marry you is completely acceptable. It is honouring the fact that for generations women have been dependent on men. You saying to me you don't want to get married is the most outrageously egregious, insulting, disgusting, sexist.
Yeah.
And I was like, I rang my best friend afterwards, and I was like, who also, our best friends have all married each other, because our gang,
in the group,
we've all known each other, and so we have this amazing group. And I rang her, and I was like, I hate him. Like, it's just, what on earth? And it turns out he bought the ring. So he had the ring. He had the ring for about 5 months and been planning this whole moment. We were going to Montpellier, and he'd everything planned in his head. And for him, and he was like, I'm a planner. So I plan everything. I could tell you what I'm doing in September 2027 right now, pretty much. I was actually just booking something for September 27. That's why it's in my mind. And so I'm a real planner. And he was like, he wanted to have this moment. He wanted to do the romance. Mm-hmm. And so it was gorgeous. It was Montpellier, south of France, midnight. I was
going to say, does he get a ring right?
Fit me.
Yeah, I was going to say, does this man get a ring right?
No, he got me
with the best style.
Because that was
awful to give you jewellery.
It was Topshop. I was 26. I was peak Topshop. I'd been with them for 5 years at that point, and he got me the most perfect ring in the entire world. Yeah. It doesn't fit me. I haven't. Me all your jewellery, so those are my babies.
Holy shit.
Biggest moments in your life. I always say that I've been with him Ooh, I just knocked the mic,
that's
folks.
Okay.
In my back.
Beautiful jewellery. Oh my goodness.
But I would always say, so he got me the most beautiful ring. It was a grey diamond, which are basically imperfect diamonds. Wow. So he got me this grey diamond. It was in recycled, this beautiful Indian gold. So it's this gorgeous deep yellow. He did lovely things, like he pulled it out of his shirt pocket, and everything about it. And it was midnight in a wine festival and it was pre-internet, really, 14 years ago, so there wasn't a cameraman. I didn't get the video. I would have loved to have had some of that moment.
I know, I sometimes think that.
Wouldn't it have been amazing?
Yeah, but then
just for the kids, for her,
I don't know, then there's lots of, like, I see proposals or I see videos, or we didn't even do a wedding video. We got married in Mallorca in a mountain, and looking back I'm like, maybe it wasn't meant to be filmed, because it's just a moment in time. And maybe I think I also romanticize it a lot. Maybe it wasn't like that. Maybe it was less but our proposal was on a beach in South Africa. And like, yes, I would love, but then that's in your head. You don't need that.
And I have the memories, the really messy, gorgeous memories of this moment. And I literally remember, so, I've been left beautiful things. I have this beautiful hanging in my mum that my mum gave me. I'm the fifth generation of women in my family to own this hanging. And you walk into our hallway and it's like 3 meters by 2 meters, and I'm literally the fifth. I'm the fifth woman in this family to have owned it. So I've been given beautiful things that have been passed down, like we all have. You've all been given something. The chair Granny used to sit on, the piece. But I wore my engagement ring for the first time, and I realised I owned a piece of the future. Wow. It was like nothing else. Yeah. Like, I literally was wearing something, and I knew one day my daughter would wear it.
Did you approve of my South African to Singapore? Yeah. So he did that himself. This is a man who wouldn't be interested in things like jewellery, and he went off and got that made.
But he got it made
in South Africa.
And I love your band, because it goes so well with it.
One on each, and I don't wear the
you don't wear the halo together. I love them.
I've got short little fat hands. But he did a nice job, because I was always like, I don't know what, everyone was getting engaged, and I was very anti-marriage. Very.
Yeah.
Chupi, scarred. I was like, no. And I do remember seeing all these big
white,
the normal,
white diamonds with the halo were our trend.
Short fat hands, they'll get cotton tops. I don't like it. It's very showy. It's not who I am. I don't feel the need to.
But he's
and
done
I think
he
listened to all of that, and then I got given what I was given, which I kind of liked, actually, that I didn't choose it. But I do love this feeling of women celebrating that they had a marriage that either worked and was incredible but came to an end, and getting a piece of jewellery from a friend or buying it themselves. Or maybe the marriage didn't end well or whatever. But this divorce ring thing, when you put it on your Instagram, I was like, she's a genius. Because we don't, it's all just hush hush, and it's such a failing, and everything we do is a failure. If your business goes under, if you can't have a child, if your marriage doesn't work, if you can't buy a home. And I'm so over this feeling. Like, Louise Cooney was on the podcast talking about, love her, and she was just so authentic. Oh, this drinks thing hasn't worked out, the cost of that, and it's grand, I've announced it. And there was this feeling of like, why 10 years ago we were all like, everything's going great, like get divorced. It's like, actually something was fab for a while. It wasn't all shit. And there's this piece of jewellery now. Love it.
It's that idea of honouring the moments in your life. So my journey in jewellery started with this engagement ring with love, with this idea of like, I never even imagined having babies. I'd never grown up with the idea of the white wedding. I like quite literally had not grown up with the idea of the white wedding where the babies, and getting my ring, I was like, oh my God, I quite literally own this piece of the future. And so my journey into jewelry starts with love, with hope, with this perfect future, with everything ahead. And all of the moments that happened. So that is, I was 26, so that is 14 years ago. And all of the moments that have happened ever since, all of the days in my life, all of the bad and the good. And so I'll talk you through some of my moments in a minute, but coming through it, and I've always thought the greatest privilege of what we do at Chupi is people's stories.
Yeah.
So it started out on Instagram. Like I always think, when we started in Topshop, Facebook hadn't happened.
No, I don't think so.
It only had literally just started, because I remember a friend, hi Adele, who said, "I'll set up you need to set up a Facebook page." And I was like, "So let me get this straight. I'm going to put a page on the internet, and people are going to come and like the page, and they're going to." And I was like, "I would rather die than put myself out there. And what if no one comes?" And I remember she set it up, and my mum liked it, and then my brother liked it, and then my friends liked it, and then I suddenly realized it was a thing. And so starting Chupi, I obviously had social, and moved onto Instagram, and I started sharing stories. For me, I'm obsessed with stories. Why did you buy the ring? Where did your eternity come from? What was the moment you marked? Because jewelry is our living biography. Like, we are carrying our biography in our hands. And so I started asking people to tell me. I would share stories. People would, like Ro was saying, the team, because we serve 70 countries every year. And so the stories that come through our virtual and physical doors, like, if you want to restore your faith in humanity, just come spend a few hours with us in Clarendon Street. People come in with the most beautiful, magical, it's the most incredible thing to be part of.
Thing to work in, like, whatever about fashion and art, and I'm a big perfume gal. That'd probably be my biggest where I spent. But like, jewellery is just, that is it. Like, I see pieces of my mum's, I'm like, that came from dad when this happened. He came back from Greece, or, all of that wouldn't, like, all the random stuff.
And I thought we were in the business of love. I was like, jewellery is the business of love. It's getting engaged, it's getting married, it's having babies. And what I started hearing reflected back to me was actually, we're in the business of hope. You buy jewelry because you're hoping for a better tomorrow, because you're hopeful for the future, because you buy it on days of love, but you also buy it on days of loss. It's why literally when you walk into our store on Clarendon Street, it has a big sign. It says love, hope, and everything in between. Because we're not just there for days of love.
You're right. Because
it's grief.
If
it's
you propose
losing
to someone, you may or may not.
They might say no.
Get the answer you want. You may not.
You get married. Your marriage may not last.
Yeah.
You might.
It is hope.
And so what I heard coming back was all of those moments of divorce, of loss, of grief, of the babies that couldn't be, of the babies that would never be, of the marriages that weren't going to be. I remember, I'll never forget the first horror story I was told, the first negative story. I was standing on the shop floor. We were maybe 3 or 4 years in business, and I try as much as possible. I love being on the shop floor. Let me at it. I am a shop girl.
Yeah, it's really nice.
I'm still a shop girl.
Yeah, I'm a kind of shop girl in the sense of me talking to people every day, and I love the chats.
Well, and I always think Jo Malone says, like, she is a shop girl, and I'm like, you either are or you aren't, and I'm obsessed. I love it. So I remember standing there, and this girl was looking at our heart ring, which we still do actually in our collection, and she was saying, oh, I'd love it. I'd love to buy it for myself. And I was just chatting away to her, and I was like, oh, do you want to try it on? And she was like, I can't. My boyfriend bought me a bracelet of yours, and I've been wearing it, and I discovered he was cheating on me with my best friend, and he'd bought her a Chupi piece. And I was like, I just remember being like, oh God. What? That was something that he'd bought her for this moment of love, that we had sold her for this moment of love. And I was like, bring it back in. We will melt the bracelet down at 1,000 degrees, and we'll sort you out and get you a ring. And so she walked out with a moment of hope on her hand. And then that became divorce. And I remember the first time someone said to me they were getting a divorce ring. It was only about 3 years ago. So it's really recent. It's such a change, where divorce used to be shame.
Yes. In this country, it wasn't accepted. It was taboo. I think it still is in many ways, Chupi. I mean,
failure of marriage.
The failure of the family unit.
Yeah. Well,
right?
Because
not even marriage, like family
yes,
unit.
It doesn't have to be marriage.
The in-laws, the kids, if you have kids, the cousins, they're no longer hanging out. There's all this heavy shit.
Well, it used to be called, so when when dad left and mum had to get the dole, it was called deserted wives allowance.
Love it.
Deserted wives. And then they moved it to lone parents, because that was slightly less shameful, because obviously there was no deserted husbands, only deserted wives. Heaven forbid. And so deserted wives. And so I remember, because it was a paper book, and I remember reading it and being like, my mum was literally the only divorced person in the village. Like, quite literally.
I love that.
Grew up in the most gorgeous place, Hollywood in West Wicklow, and it was never.
I grew up near you in Blessington.
Yes, yeah. I remember this literally, and see, we are close.
Hollywood was quite like
tiny,
close knit, cute, beautiful. Like it was different, but it was bigger.
Blessington was 4 or 5 times. So Brian is from Naas, so literally around the corner, and his folks still live there, so we go there all the time. And that idea of deserted wives, and so I was standing on the shop floor a few years ago, and I probably only get about half a day a month. But I happened to be there, and this lady was trying on rings, and she was trying on eternity rings, and she was kind of thinking about, she was saying maybe my pinky, maybe my index, and I was just happily chatting away to her, and she said, actually, it's to mark my divorce. And it had been really bad, again, a betrayal, and she was like, I don't know what to do with the rings, and I said, keep them. If you've got kids, most people tend to keep the rings, because part of it is, and Mum always says this, you know, she's so glad she got married and married Dad, because she got us. You know, it's one of the best decisions in her life. She got
if I don't make it work, or we all don't. My kids are literally
the greatest gift.
It's a fucking minefield.
It is. And so she was telling me the story, and she said, and so it was amazing. And I got chatting. So she got a gorgeous eternity ring. So eternity rings are really interesting. So they used to be given for the birth of your first child or 25 years marriage. I'm like, for 25 years, I fully expect like a 25 carat diamond. I'm like, get me an eternity. Like honestly, if you survive 25 years, honestly, you deserve more than one ring. But now it's become much more about first year of marriage or first baby. One for every baby and first year of marriage. But she had never gotten one. He'd never given anything for the babies, and not given anything for the anniversary. She said she probably should have known, and so she got it for herself. And so she got it as a pinky ring. And she loved the idea of power, of reclaiming it, because obviously one of the really practical things that happens when you get divorced is you take off your rings. And, you know, I've worn my rings now for...
Sorry, see you later bags.
Like, honestly.
We break up tomorrow, I'm not giving out. It's not like a freaking Hollywood movie where they throw the husband, tell him to get out. I'm keeping my rings.
But you might not want them. You might not want them in the way they exist today, because they symbolise that moment. And so lots of people take them off, even if they just take them off for the first few years. And so it's become this, you know, this really significant moment for us. So I've done I've done Vogue interviews, Business of Fashion.
Sorry, you are a marketeer's dream. Like you are, your Instagram page, your interviews you do, you only give so much, but it's enough for us. And we talk about you. I don't get in there. I look at your stuff, and then I'm just useless at buying myself things or treating myself. But I'm actually
you need to buy your own
diamonds. No, I'm on a whole vibe recently where I'm like, this is the treat yourself era, right?
We are the first generation of women to buy our own diamonds.
No, listen, I'm on it.
Our mums didn't get to.
I was like, I'm getting her in. I'm getting down to that shop.
But it's like, for me, I always think, you know, it's the Cher quote of like, Mom, I am a rich man. Her mom was like, marry a rich man, and she was like, Mom, I am a rich man.
I love that quote.
And I just think it's partly about power. It's about,
my girls love seeing me buy. Like she was like, getting that as Daddy whereas I would have grown up with Mum having to get the credit card or Daddy having to.
And it's not about, and like, you know, as women, we tend, so there's a really interesting statistic that if you give a woman $1, something like, so this is a global development statistic, but if you give a woman $1, 97 cents will go back into the family unit. If you give a man $1, 15 cents will go back into the family unit.
I'm a man
then. But it's true. And actually it's so true for us, especially for when you're in the juggle years. Like, you know, if we think about what we're talking about today, we are in, I think we're going to look back, my little girl's 4, we're going to look back on these years and go, we were in it. Like we were in the thick of it.
Talk to me about it.
The juggle.
Talk to me about the fact that you are keen business people in this country, well respected, success story, but you're grind, right? Talk to me about the fact that you've made this beautiful baby, but actually it's all a bit like, IVF is a killer. And it's something that upsets me a little bit about women I have had on the podcast who kind of, I don't know if they mean to, but they don't really register, or they've spoken about it so much, or they haven't been probed. Like IVF is no mean feat, right? It is a hormonal mindfuck. It is a financial mindfuck, a relationship strain, and it's just all on one dog, right? And you went through it with Brian to get your beautiful daughter. Can you tell us a little bit about, or what you want to tell us?
So it was really funny because I said I started my journey into jewelry with love. You know, falling in love, getting my engagement ring, my wedding ring. I got a ring because we met when we were 16. When I was 32, I'd spent over half my life with Brian. Wow. So I got a ring to celebrate that. These were all these huge, big milestone moments. And then we decided, okay, it's time for babies. We were kind of 31, 32, very early. And now I look back and with my with my wisdom years, look back and go, for us, I always think it was funny, especially because when we were younger, it was don't get married, don't get pregnant, don't get married, because we were so young.
Don't get pregnant.
Don't get married, don't get pregnant.
If you get pregnant, don't come home. Okay, thanks, Dad.
And that pressure of those early days. I remember, we've all had that moment of being like, I remember being 19 and thinking I'd missed my period and thinking, oh, sweet baby.
Fear of Jesus, yeah.
What? And just that terror. And not that, gosh, my mum would have been amazing. Brian's parents would have been amazing. They are all incredible. We're very lucky. 3 incredible parents. But that idea, I thought we would just decide to have babies and maybe it would take a little while. And then realizing, and I'm a numbers person, so I ran the odds, and it's something like if you're not pregnant within the first 6 months, 85% of people are pregnant within the first 6 months. And of the remaining 15%, the data is horrific. And so on day 182, I was like, okay, we've got to go to the clinic and get checked. And the grief of that. And the reason I talked about it, so then fast forward to 4 years later, finally announcing that we were going to welcome our girl into the world. And
think about those 4 years, guys. Think about a year in your life. If you think about a year and the shit that happens within a year, think about 4 of those years. And how a woman, we've to suppress, we've to work away in the background, we don't talk about it, people ask questions. That is horrendous.
And I had no idea going into IVF. I thought, to be fair, that's it, hadn't had any friends. All my friends had really easy pregnancies and births by and large. And I had no personal experience, no experience of anyone who'd been through it. And so I thought, okay, it's really expensive. And yeah, I'm sure it's quite painful, but you get a baby. You basically do it. It's called a cycle. You do a cycle of IVF and you get a baby.
Great.
I had no idea that actually it's something like a 14% success rate per cycle.
Wow.
And we had no idea going in. And so when it came to the other side, when we went through that, and like you say, I always call it, funny, roller coaster was one of the websites I read obsessively. Because there's all these forums.
You do get obsessed. I was on forums as well.
And just to read all those forums and to not be alone. And so it's always really tough. So I remember my therapist saying, some people talk their think and some people think their think. And I'm a talk your think. I was brought up with this idea of honesty, of truth, of openness, that's not to say that now I'm not much more private. Sharing your life on the internet is an interesting roller coaster, and whilst you get loads of incredible people who I've made some of my best friends who I've never even met in real life who've become part of my story. I've also had some really horrible experiences on the internet, and so I'm more private now probably than I was 10 years ago. And I'm pretty private of my daughter, and my husband is the world's most private human being. Poor man. He is.
Good.
Yeah, he's really private.
Yeah.
It's really good, and it means that there's balance. And my friends are really private. By and large, they don't exist on the internet. But when we came through it and out the other side, we were 5 months, we'd done the 20-week scan before I shared anything with the world. I remember because I'd had everything said to me. I'd had, journalists go, do you think prioritizing your career is the right stage at this point in your life? I'd had family, friends go, you guys probably ought to think about having babies. I was 35. I wasn't 45 and had been ignoring it carefully for years. And it's really interesting because I think, Brian wouldn't have shared it necessarily. He would have just been having a baby. But for me, I think it was so important because to acknowledge.
Why did you not give up?
I don't give up. I have a real challenge with manifestation. I get the principle, but I think it's really privileged to go, I wanted to buy a house, so I went and bought a house. For us, for example, buying a house, when we got engaged, fell in love, decided this was the moment, and I said to Brian, I really want to go and make jewelry. I want to start a jewelry company. I want to start marking the biggest moments in people's lives. And instead of saying, oh sweet baby Jesus, please go get a proper job, he was like, okay babe, we'll do it. At that stage we'd nothing to lose, so I always describe it as post-partying pre-children. And we had about 30 grand saved, so we'd put aside our entire life savings because we've been saving to buy a house. And I went, I'm going to put this money into starting our baby. And part of that was my granny had left me some money, about 5,000 quid, and that mum had given me from granny. And I thought, okay, let's risk it. And so we rented a house for a year, paid our rent in advance, and we went for it. And so it meant that we didn't buy our first house until we were 36. And so we were much later than most of our gang. Our gang are all in sensible, normal jobs, all in tech and IT, you know, super in IT, so a lot of them in IT and marketing and stuff. And they'd all bought their houses. And bearing in mind also, this is a current massive crisis. 10 years ago, it was still a crisis, but not quite at the same level. It was more a crisis of not being able to get a mortgage rather than not being able to afford a house. So we were much later buying than our friends. And I had been so aware that I wasn't existing on the timeline. You know, we weren't on the timeline you're meant to hit of, you know, this is the age you get married, this is the age you buy your house, this is the age you have your babies. And I was so aware of the social pressure of all of that. And so I'd been quite honest about sharing the journey of, you know, we built this incredibly beautiful business, 70, 80 hours a week work. And when we bought our house, we did the renovation. We literally did the painting. We did our incredible friends in Ballyshannon put in our kitchen. It was this labor of love to bring it to life. And so I couldn't stand there on the day we acknowledged. And I couldn't just, I have always loved I think it's a privilege I get to share part of my life on the internet. Mum is incredible. She would have written about us the whole way through our childhood. So she would have written for the Sunday Indo, the Times, the Examiner, all of the papers about, you know, the story of bringing up these kids, of living in the mountains. And so for me, it was really natural. I never felt, I'm not an influencer. We don't get paid to write about things, but I've always loved the idea of sharing the journey of building a business and growing a brand. And I couldn't have just said, I'm having a baby. I wanted to say we're having a baby on the roller coaster of grief and loss that took us 4 years to stand here and hold her. Because for me, and you know, there was a real consideration. Everything I write, I think, what will she think when she reads it? And I hope when she reads it, she will see the love and longing that brought her into the world.
It's tricky. Sorry, it's a tricky one because I feel the same, and I was very outspoken about my longing. And I just think it's such a tricky area, and it's so hard. And behind those closed doors, there's so many tears and fights. And should we give up? Let's give up. And people's opinions and broken moments, very broken moments. Usually. And it's just, and then you put up into the wilderness of Instagram, or I do remember announcing things each time, and it's hard because I also feel like what will the weight of me wanting her so much be a lot of pressure for Simone? I sometimes think about that, but I'm also like, I really hope she knows that we just wanted her so badly. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Can I ask you, were you ever told, was there a reason why you had to undergo IVF? Were you ever given reasons, Chupi?
It's actually one thing I really struggle with, and that's back to my manifestation piece of this idea of just, we'll manifest a baby. And I think it's the most, so I'm a crier. So I'm like, I haven't sobbed. I haven't sobbed, but we're doing well. But I really struggle with this idea of just, it's such a privilege of this idea. Oh yeah, like I'll manifest. So when we were told it was going to be complicated, and then it might never happen. And you know, people are like, oh, I manifested a house. I'm like, I didn't manifest a house. I worked insane hours. I dreamt, I planned, I wished, I hoped, but I had to build a plan. And so, this is a complete digression. I'm going to take you away from babies to the idea of this, because I often feel like we talk about the results and not the process of, you know, like we have a beautiful business. We have a gorgeous girl. I have a life I love that I work bloody hard for, but I have a life I love. And a huge part of the journey to that was when I was 30, I got invited onto a personal board. It's basically, so you have corporate boards that exist in businesses that guide the direction of the business, guide the strategy, guide the 10 years. And this wonderful friend of mine, Joanne Hessian, who wouldn't mind me saying she's in her 50s, runs these phenomenal Lift Ireland, this amazing not-for-profit looking to do incredible things in Ireland. And then Sonia Lennon, Catherine Rooney, former head of business in AIB, Karen Hennessy, who's former Design and Crafts Council, Claire Reynolds, who's former Vodafone, now Apple, these amazing gang of women. Joanne brought us together. We're in our, at that point we were 30s, 40s, 50s, we're in our 40s, 50s, 60s. And it's basically this brilliant gang. And we used to meet once a quarter. It's probably more like once a year now. And it's like having a board. And so you go in and you talk about your hopes and your dreams, but you talk about your plans. Yeah, you want to do and build a phenomenal business. I sit in this incredible group called Going for Growth. It's a female entrepreneurship program. The huge challenge in women in business is that women get less than 2% of the money raised in the world. So venture capital, these are global statistics, 2% of money goes to women, 98% goes to men. So if you and your brother start a business on the same day, he's 49 times more likely to get funded. 49 times more. And so this Going for Growth is a phenomenal program that helps scale female businesses, female-led businesses. It's for women who want to grow. The idea is €1 million in revenue, 10 employees in export. I did it in 2015 with the idea that the biggest number I could possibly imagine at that stage of growing my business to was €1 million. I just couldn't imagine any bigger. Because I didn't have an example. There isn't a path to growing and building a business. And so this brilliant group of women, I got invited into this little group, and it's like an accountability. We call it a challenge and support group, and we meet, and they pick you up on your worst days. They also kick your arse when you're not held accountable. And I've always loved this idea that you can't manifest it, but you can dream it and you can plan it. So I went from having this dream. So every 3 years, I sit down and I imagine what my perfect life would look like in 3 years.
Wow.
What does it look like? Where does it live? Because if you don't have a dream, if you don't have a vision of where you want to go, you could end up anywhere. I always laugh. So in 2014, I did mine. And in 2017, I'd done this one that was, and I still have it, this letter I wrote to myself, fueled by this incredible group of women I've met. And it was, because this is going back full circle to babies. 2014, I'd written this thing and I was like, we're going to have a red brick house with steps up to it. At that stage, I was getting paid maybe 10 grand a year out of the business. Like, I didn't have a salary. This was so far out, but I was like, I'm going to have a red brick house. It's going to have steps up to it. I'm going to walk down the steps. I'm going to walk to my office. My office is going to have exposed brick walls. It's going to have wooden floors. It's going to have beams in the ceiling. I'm going to have 25 people on my team. We're going to be exporting into 40 countries. I'm going to be with Brian. We're going to be really happy. We're going to have our 2 little dogs we just adopted. And in 2017, pretty much everything had happened.
But I love how you're like, so I think I'm very different to you. You're very business, like you are very entrepreneurial. I'm creative, but in a kind of scatty, I am chaotic. And my mind
we
goes,
all are.
But I get distracted. I think with the Simone making baby thing and the drama that we went through, I don't know deep down, was it like, I want to grow my family? I think I very fucking strong-willed,
yes,
and determined that. Don't know if I cared about failing, but I was like, I'm having this baby, and I will not be told by some fucking consultant in his 70s, some very wealthy white man that probably give up. I just remember being like, I'm going to have this baby, and it's going to kill me, and it very nearly did. But it was much more a fucking thing of like, but I really want to, and I will.
But you did it.
So yeah,
you had a dream.
I love your every 3 years. Like, ladies, listen to this, because we're talking about financial poverty with women. We're talking about goal setting. We're talking about
be the rich man.
Be the rich man. Like,
but guys, power.
I would love to sit down today and go, Rebecca, in 2027, seriously though, what are you actually going to do? So I don't know.
The only difference is I wrote it down. You had the dream. You did exactly. You knew what your mission was. You knew where you were going. You just didn't write it down. It's exactly the same thing. But I had this incredible support group of women who, it was amazing. So the first thing we did, literally one of the first things we did with this amazing group, and we were kind of spending 2 hours together every kind of couple of weeks, was I had to write my obituary. I was 30. And I remember just thinking, what's my impact going to be in the world? At that stage, I was a busy fool. I was working every single hour. We're all busy fools. So it's motherhood. I am still a very, very busy person. I'm still on the 60-hour weeks most weeks, but I wasn't driving it in a direction. I was very busy, but I didn't know what happiness looked like. And it wasn't magic. I didn't manifest it. I had a dream, and then I had to build a plan. So I had to go, for year 3, this is what I want to do. What am I going to be doing in year 2? What am I going to be doing in year 1? And what am I going to be doing in year 0? Because I had to step ladder it to there. And so 2017 arrived. I had this beautiful vision. It was there. It was gorgeous. This Chupi was taking shape. We turned our first €1 million. It was just this, it was so many magical things that had happened in those few years. But that was the year we discovered we couldn't have babies. And I remember sitting there going, oh, shoot, I dreamt this. I planned this, and suddenly went from, we'd kind of been talking about it, we're like, okay, we'll have a baby this year. And I sat down to do my 3-year plan, and it went from, we'll have a baby this year. And actually, it's why I wear, sorry folks, no good for all of you who are on the podcast, but
I can see some of this.
Yeah, this is, I wear this ring called Crown of Hope, because we went from being like, okay, we'll have a baby, to going, well, we'll start a family. because I couldn't find that we would have a baby anymore. That wasn't within my control.
Love that. Yeah.
And so I made it with 5 Marquise diamonds pointing forward to the future for hope.
Yeah.
And 5 diamonds for 5 years. And this idea that within 5 years we would have a family, whether IVF worked, whether we fostered, whether we adopted. We had sat down and had that conversation of, are we prepared to go through this? Are we prepared for the grief and the loss and the finance and the like, how the hell are we going to make it work? And I made Crown of Hope for that moment to go relentlessly. Like, I am with you, I'm relentless. This is what I'm going to do. And it's, sometimes I need someone to stop me. I need Brian to be like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, I'm laughing, Kate, when I go on holidays, Kate and Monica, my 2 incredible senior team in works, there's 4 of us on the senior team. I will get, if I check in, it'll be like, I'm going to ban your email address. I'm going to delete your Slack account too. I'm like, okay. Because I sometimes need that barrier. I need it held up against me. But I wear my Crown of Hope. And so, I have another one. I have one for me for the day we started that journey, and I might never have. We bought our house that year, just before we had her. We bought our house in summer 19, not knowing if we'd ever have babies, and it was such a surreal thing. It was this mad, the way it was configured. It was 5 bedrooms. Now they were some of them were tiny, but it was this madly configured Edwardian house. And I remember thinking, we didn't plan for a nursery. We couldn't. We had no idea if we were ever going to bring a baby home.
Build the house and they will come. We bought our house with too many rooms and we did not have a baby, and we were a very sad couple, and our baby came within 9 months. Chupi, you are one of a kind. I don't want to let you go. I hope, with the nature of how podcasts are and how they live on, that she listens to this one day.
Oh, I hope so.
Because if I was your daughter, I would just think you're incredible.
Thank you. And thank you for such a gorgeous interview.
I'm so happy to meet you again. It's been this, whirlwind, seeing you at things or spotting you or watching you succeed, with love and hope. But to sit down and hear your story, I know there'll be another one in 5 years or 10 years. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure. It's a community, like Ireland has been an incredible place. It's the community of women. It's the people like you. It's why I love what I do. Thank you, my darling.
Thank you. Sponsored by Aptamil Follow-On Milk. We believe that every feed is a gift. That's why we've dedicated over 50 years to breast milk research and created Aptamil Follow-On Milk. Aptamil Follow-On Milk, your life, our science. Breastfeeding is best. Follow-on milk should be used as part of a mixed diet from 6 months. Talk to a health professional. I hope you enjoyed this episode of A Little Birdie Told Me, and if you did, it would mean a lot to me if you could like, subscribe and share this episode.